Gonna go, and we are live. Good afternoon, everybody. Well, last night it was all set to go with my guest Glyn Dewis, but he sent me an email apologising that he wouldn't be able to make it because he'd been called away on an urgent job, and you can't stand in the way of work. And so, all the best to you, Glyn. Let's hope we can make it another time. So I was floundering around with a couple of ideas, and then suddenly I thought, I wonder if Dave Kai Piper would be available, and he is. But we've had to do it this afternoon because he's working as well this evening. So, Dave, thank you so much for stepping in at the 11th hour. This is really very, very awesomeness, as they say.
Well, thank you very much for asking me. And yeah, it's even nicer to be kind of asked to drop into, for Glyn's spot. He's a absolutely incredible guy. So I hope wherever he is working, he's doing a fantastic job.
Yeah, he will be. He's, as you say, he's a lovely guy. He does some fantastic work. I was watching some of his videos yesterday. So, yeah. Well, hopefully, fingers crossed, we'll get hooked up with Glyn another time. So anyway, so Dave Kai Piper, who is another Fuji user. Yes, I'm probably getting a little bit one-sided with Fuji users. But I am a Fuji user, so no apologies for that at all. But let's go back to the beginning, Dave, with your career. How did photography start for you?
I think for most photographers that live and breathe photography, how we started is always an interesting question. But for me, I generally go down the concept of that it kind of chose me. At no point did I want to be a photographer. It was my first photographic memory was my mum telling me to photograph something because I probably wouldn't have the chance to see it again. And ever since that, it's been a case of recording things. And so I've been someone that's liked to record the places that I've been. I love to travel. And slowly in time, I think there's two types of photographers. Photographers that record and photograph the world around them, and then there's the photographers that create images of the things that they have in their world, and I like to join between the two. I like to create images and I like to take images at the same time. But yeah, it was more a case that one day people started paying me money to do what I love to do, and right. Hopefully long may it continue.
Exactly. How actually did you get started in the I'm going to use the term commercial side of photography? How did that get started for you?
Again, my mum's to blame for this. There was a job for a company called the company was called Pixie Photo. Actually, it's one of these kind of venture style companies, and Olin Mills type high street photographers. And my mum actually applied for the job for me, and in the end, I went along and I got fired. I got fired from there. But after that was my first proper job, and I then went to work for a wedding company called Prestige Photography. I assisted some of those guys and just slowly picked things up. But it was photographing people was my first job, and then a little foray into the wedding industry, into the music industry.
Yeah.
And then finally into the fashion industry, and now I'm much more kind of going down the landscape travel, landscape, cityscapes, those sorts of things. And
yeah, I noticed this when I was looking through your website this afternoon that there's definitely a strong sort of a strength there. We've obviously started off with the weddings and then moved into the fashion and the glamour type work, and then I just noticed just at the back end we're starting to see a little bit more of the travel photography, which we're going to talk a little bit more about that later with some latest projects that you've got lined up. So tell me about the commercial side of things, and obviously the wedding sort of set you off, and then we started moving into the glamour and the fashion type of photography. Did you go seeking this, or were you approached?
For fashion things?
Yeah.
I forget who it was. I think it might be even Chase Jarvis. He said, photograph what you love.
Yeah.
And to be fair, I love, I don't want to say I love fashion. I admire the fashion industry. I love the creative, artisan personalities that it provides, and I think photographically, for me it's the hardest challenge. Is mixing fashion photography because it's portraiture, it's personal, it's it's art, it's everything that photography presents to you. It's landscape photography mixed with portrait photography.
Yeah.
You know, the locations, the drama, all of that stuff. Everything needs to come together for a fashion shoot. So I really relish the challenge, and photograph what you love. I love big things. I love, you know, I love a challenge, and I love pretty things, and you know, I like photographing the world around me. So
Yeah.
yeah.
So when you come down to a commercial, and this is one of the questions which I'm keen to know. When you get a situation like this, who actually chooses the location? Do you come up with the idea for the customer, or does the customer in actual fact say, no, Dave, that's where we're going to shoot?
Nothing's the same twice. It's a very, very interesting thing. I mean, sometimes if someone wants something, they every single element is different. This is one of the things I love about photography. No 2 days are the same. No 2 shoots are the same. I've had clients come to me going, I love this location. Can we do something there? And I've had people come to me saying, this is the model I want to use. Can we use her? Or they've come and said, we just need some simple images. Nothing's the same. And part of the role as a photographer, especially these days, is being an art director.
Yeah.
Being a location scout, being a lighting technician, being an editor. Being a photographer today is such a multifaceted thing that we really have to. There's a guy called Benjamin Von Wong who's the absolute master of kind of directing things, and it's teamwork, but it's also a team that needs to look to a leader, and I think the photographers these days need to kind of work with teams of people, and that's what I do. I work with the clients to find the best things for them and help and advise them. If they're paying me,
yeah, exactly right. Do you actually sort of do a sort of a recce of the area you're going to be doing the shoot, or do you just turn up on the day and go for it?
Bits of both.
Right. Okay.
I am a big fan of production value.
Yeah.
But I'm also a big fan of research and making things just work. It's amazing how many. I'm a big simple light photographer. I love using one light, and you can take a studio setup with a single light, and you can put it in any location and make it look good just by changing your shutter speed. So whether you're in a studio or whether you're in a location, the principles are always the same. So if you're shooting, there's an image I did with a Peli case with Kenilworth Castle in the background, and the setup for that is identical that I used for a model. Yeah, I mean, I take the same scenarios and place them in different areas, but the locations, it's usually client led.
Fair enough. Okay, that's great. I think in actual fact it's a very good sort of segue into doing a screen share of some of your work. So if it's okay, I've got things. This is where it normally goes all pear shaped for a little while. I'll hook on there. How does that look like? Can you see that?
Yes. Oh gosh, that's me. That's my work.
Yeah, that's your work on. This is your smugmug.com, 4 pages Fuji gallery.
Yes.
We're going to come to the Fujis later, everyone. But anyway, I just thought, whilst, if it's okay with you, stay on this particular page and I'll just scroll through, and if you say sort of one particular image, if you could just tell us the sort of basic idea and the setup that you were looking to create for some of these images you show.
Yeah, I mean most of the work that I've shot, especially here on the Fuji gallery, I tend to kind of have the Fuji as a travel-esque camera, which can also. I mean, the top 2 images are like this. The one on the right is a commercial shoot for a client, for a wedding dress designer, and the one on the left is just just a nice sunset that I photographed.
Yeah.
And that's the really joy of the Fuji system, is that 1 second it's a professional setup and the next it's the perfect travel camera. And that's the nice kind of duality. And And I guess the work in the Fuji gallery there is a complete mixture of commercial portraiture and travel images, and I really love that blend. I tend to tell people it's people and places. I've a couple of self-published books kind of entitled The People and Places. The city on the waterfront there, that's actually Tel Aviv, and that was a pretty special trip. And so's the seascape next to it. But yeah, I mean I just really love how the camera system blends between being a travel camera and then a professional working camera as well.
I'm trying to make sure that this is going out so that you can actually see, but I'm getting a little bit of interference here for some reason. Can you actually...
I'll bring it up on my computer and then I can see...
Can you actually see that now? The page with your images?
Yes.
Right, lovely. Okay. It was... I couldn't get the settings correct. So this page in actual fact gives a very good sort of broad cross section of the type of work you're producing. You've obviously got some good travel photography here, and obviously some commercial work.
Yeah, the image with the guy looking out wearing the Priory t-shirt, that was for a clothing company.
Right.
Yeah, it's I when I'm working with clients, I'm very conscious to kind of what they're buying is what they've seen on my website. So there isn't a big difference between my personal work and my client work. I think that's the best that clients get out of me is when it looks like a style image.
Yeah.
Yeah. Some of those pictures are from New York and my trip to New York and the Arboretum. Yeah. Yeah, it's. I mean, as I said before, the type of cameras and the small form of cameras really do lend fantastically to this cross. This crossover between work and play, which makes photography fun, and that's what it's all about, really. Having a camera that you can trust and use.
Yes, I was on a workshop last week with Alex Lambert, who also another Fuji user, and really just sticking with just two cameras, X100S and the XT1. Well, I think he's got about three lenses he probably uses, and the couple of the adapters on the X100S, and keeping the equipment simple. In actual fact, lends itself to creating such good work.
I don't want to sound like I'm incorrectly quoting Alex, but I think I read somewhere or heard him say somewhere that the camera should be in. He'll probably say if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure he sees the camera as an extension of himself.
Yes, he does.
Stop thinking of the camera.
Exactly right.
And just start, kind of creating the content, or just working with your subjects, and the less in between you and your subject, the better.
Yes.
Which is slightly. I mean, I use that as a psychological tool as well. So sometimes I have a collection of images on my website, which is like a portrait project, which is just raw portraiture. And for those projects, I tend to use the biggest camera I can physically find, because I enjoy putting that barrier in between me and my subject, because that creates a bit of isolation. The Fuji system gives this kind of great contact. You can also use bigger cameras to separate you and them and kind of have a much more of an isolated photograph. So I tend to do that with my classic portraiture, as it were. I tend to kind of use that concept to break that connection. So it can work both ways.
Yeah, there's some lovely work here you've done here. Let's come out of screen share again, because we're touching on the subject now of gear, which everyone seems to get this perception of. Well, I say everyone, because I think that the actual attitude now is changing quite drastically and quite quickly. But everyone seems to get the impression that to be a professional photographer, you've got to have a lot of gear, and generally it lends itself to being a DSLR type equipment. You were saying just before the show you're very much a guy of using the tool for the job, what camera suit.
I run the risk of of not practicing what I preach for this one.
Yeah.
Because as I have everything. As I was saying before, I have like a Sigma ST1 Merrill. I have the X Pro, the T. I have a lot of cameras. Big fan of the Canon cameras. I'm a big fan of Nikon. I'm a big fan of photography, and I like my gear. And I'm very blessed to have a lot of gear. And but I did a wedding the other day, and I shot the entire thing on a 35mm lens, a Sigma 35mm lens, because that's what the job required. It's nice to have more. It's great to have more. If it boosts your confidence to have 50 lenses, then do that. That's fine. But photography isn't about cameras. That's not what, for me, photography is about. Photography is about capturing, creating moments. It's about recording things. It's an emotional subject, not a dry technical subject. But on the flip side, I could probably argue that it is a dry technical subject, and this gives us the quandary of photography. It's different for everybody, but definitely, the simpler you can be with your work, the better your work will be.
Yeah, exactly.
But and there's me with every camera under the sun. But when I go out shooting, I usually take one camera, one lens, but just the right camera and the right lens for what I'm doing. And to be fair, at the minute, it's usually the XT1 and the 35mm lens. There's nothing I couldn't do with this camera.
Yeah,
there really isn't. But sometimes it is nice to use the D100 as well, because it is a different camera for different things. So
do you sometimes get a demand by the client to say,
no.
Dave, I don't want you shooting with the Fuji, I want you to shoot with the Nikon? Do you get anything like that?
No.
Those days are gone, basically, aren't they, where you said it's got to be 36 megapixels or nothing?
I mean, I was having this conversation with Kevin Mullins, actually. There's what's the date today, just so people know?
23rd.
Okay, so this week in Amateur Photographer magazine.
24th.
Actually, 24th. Okay.
Yeah.
So in years' time, people can find the article.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah.
I actually wrote an opinion piece for AP magazine, and because the background story, I promise slight separation, but it is interesting and it does answer the question. An editor for a very, 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 very well-known blog sent me a private message, and they said, Dave, I'm thinking about buying an XT1, a couple of lenses. Should I have my 5D Mark III and my L lenses? And I just thought, this is an editor of a big blog, and I please hope that I don't want to say if it's a boy or a girl. You can shout at me for bringing this up. But anyway, I just thought, in this day and age, of all the information that's on there in the web, why are people still asking, should I sell my DSLR for a CSC? Why are people still asking this question? And when I kind of gave some thought about it, because I generally thought, if the editor's asking me, no one's actually definitively answered it, otherwise she would have knew. And it kind of dawned on me that the question is wrong. Should I sell this to buy this isn't the right question. It's, what does my business do and what does my business need?
Exactly right.
That's the question that people need to ask. A business will tell you exactly what you need. Now, again, I was speaking with Kevin Mullins, and he knows his business. He knows his clients. He knows what equipment he needs, and he knows what equipment he doesn't need. And that enables him to quickly assess where to put his money, where to not put his money, and to have a good business. And he said, if a client came to me and I needed to put a picture on a wall and it needed to be a stock image and they needed it, he'd go rent a camera. He'd go and rent the right tool for the right job. And it's that's the difficult thing. I think a lot of photographers, and this is where the hate mail comes in, don't really know what they do as a business.
No, I quite agree with you.
we like taking photographs, and that's the hobby.
Yeah, exactly.
And it's the crossover and the fine line that's really difficult. But this is my hobby camera. This is a fun camera. I take this everywhere. I jump on my bike and I go and shoot stuff. If I'm shooting with a D800, I'm being paid. I'm being paid money because my Pelly case is heavy. You know, that's the job. And knowing the crossover and knowing the differences is the thing. I'll see if I can find you the link to the thing that I wrote.
That'd be great if you could. I think the natural fact that discussion which you're sort of alluding to on the basis of shall I sell all my gear to buy this generally is, and I say this with respect, an amateur type person who is confused by the way the market is developing at the moment.
But I think step back a minute, they're just confused about what they do. Like exactly. And again, this is where the hate mail comes in, right? My camera is really heavy. Get a black rapid strap then. Get a dual harness. If your business requires that, and that's what you're paid to do, then either change what you do or find the solution that works. But again, it sounds like I'm pushing the Fuji. I guess I am, because they are great, but that's the benefit of the small systems that are so powerful, that you can shoot commercially on them, and I have shot commercially on them. I think you're right. But I remember, as you said, you were talking about Alex and his comment, and it is a situation where you work with a tool that suits you and doesn't get in the way of the type of photography that you want to take. He's taking a photograph of me now. Is that a Fuji? Is that a Fuji phone? It's an iPhone, unfortunately. iPhone, yeah, I know, yeah. It's I think what basically Fuji have done is a very good and very smart move. I switched out of all of my Nikon gear because I didn't need it. My pastime is street photography, and I purely got fed up with walking around with a very large low pro bag on my back with 3 different cameras and 5 different lenses, which half the time I didn't use. So I sold all and bought the Fuji with the 1855 kit. That's insane lens, and it basically suited me. Now, okay, I've added a couple of lenses to that gear recently because I wanted to specialize by making myself work on tightly and closer. So I bought the 27 and the 35mm. That is my kit as things stand. And I think you're right. Buy the tools for the job that you're doing. If you're in the business of photography, then get the right gear of what you want to do. Yeah. Kevin Mullins is a classic example with the way he uses his gear with his photojournalistic style of wedding photography, which is just awesome work. Alex has got this ability, which I think is really pushing the boundaries with regards to fashion and lifestyle photography at the moment. And again, he works with small gear. It suits them, and that's the way they go about their work. And of course, yourself, you like to change. After all, when you think about it, Zach Arias, what has he got? He's got the phase outfit as well as his Fuji gear. Yeah, so I think it's the case everyone's switching to small compacts. I think Alex Lambert's. I mean, that's a very interesting point. But just before I'll remember to come back to that. I think Alex still has I think he still has a Leica system. But I mean, what I did before I picked up the D800, because I needed the video stuff in it. I had for a long time I had the Pentax 645D and the Fuji, and I didn't have a DSLR at all for like a year. I went from having a DSLR, which was kind of in the middle, to a high end and a smaller camera. I kind of didn't need the DSLR in the middle. Yeah, and I think for the working high-end discerning commercial photographer, that's a really nice situation to have, where you have work and you have play. Yeah, a bit in the middle, because DSLRs they're hybrid cameras. They are great at video, they're great at stills, they're great at time lapse, they're great at sports, they're great at so many different things, but they're not perfect at. Where you take something like the 645 Z or D, and it's very clearly made to be specifically good at a specific thing,
Yeah.
It's not going to be a great sports camera, but they didn't make it to be a sports camera. And when you know what your business does and you know where to specialize, you can then put your money into the specialist equipment. You know, and I think that's an interesting thing to do.
I think you make a very good point, actually, because we're getting to a point now where one camera doesn't do all. And if you are fortunate to be in a position with the type of your camera business, your photography business, to be doing all different aspects, then you've got to have the tools to cover those aspects. You can possibly go to a Formula One Grand Prix and take your XT1 and probably your X Pro one and do the work, which you could get away with if you took your Nikon D800.
Yeah, sure. But I mean, it's to fit your styles.
Exactly right. Unless there's a particular style that you want to do. You know, if you're looking for the arty type work, then perhaps you could get away with the Fuji Gear. But if you're looking to do the typical sports work, then the Nikon and the camera, the DSLR, is going to come into its favour.
Yeah, sure.
With that in mind, I'm interested in this because I honestly thought you were down one alley with regards to the Fuji Gear, but let's just talk Fuji for the moment to give the guys a good plug for them.
Yes.
Your preferred instrument at the moment is the XT1 with a 35mm. Is that a one? That's obviously the 1.4, isn't it?
Yeah, I mean, I genuinely do love Fuji. I really do. Like, no company has helped me more, and I've genuinely, hand on heart, I think especially the Fuji team in the UK are absolutely incredible. The most genuinely lovely, amazing people. And so what I don't want to sound like I'm saying that they're not good, but yes, I do use other equipment. And that's, I really hate it when people go, oh, so you use Nikon, so you don't like Canon.
Yeah, it's rubbish. Yeah.
Not at all. My favourite camera in the world is the 5D Mark III. I think it's sublime. But I didn't buy one. I bought the D800 because I preferred the sensor, because my job required that you know. But when it comes to the Fuji stuff, I generally never ever leave the house without the camera. It's an extension of me. But my favourite, it's probably still got to be the 60mm. Let me put that on. Yeah, this one. The portrait. Well, I see it as a portrait. It's the 60mm.
The 60mm, not the 56.
No, and I'd say the X Pro 1 is still my favourite camera.
It's funny actually, because when I went to the photo show up in Birmingham, which was in March time, where they switched over the names, I forgot what it used to be called. The XT1 was just being shown, and I kept on picking up the Pro 1. I just found the Pro 1. I just like the feel of the Pro 1, and I think really to a degree, I just like the rangefinder style. I own the XE1 myself, as I said, so I think it's because I've got that. I was gravitating towards the X Pro 1 and the style of that camera. So it's own. And it's interesting actually, because I read an article. Someone was saying or asking the question. So what is the Fuji flagship camera?
do you know what? This was at the photography show. I got this. I received this camera a few weeks before the show, and I genuinely wanted to love this camera more than anything in the world. The XT1 is a better camera than the X Pro 1 on every level. But you know what? This is
my you'll pick up.
There is no rationale behind it. None.
No.
Absolutely none. This lens is slower. There's so many things that are, I don't want to say wrong with the X Pro, but were refined with the XT.
Quirky? Would you say quirky about it?
It's who I am.
Exactly. This is said so many times, though. Zach Harris has made this comment. He was doing a review of the X100T, and he'd gone back, picked up the X100 and gone round the house and taken photographs. He said, I've never had so much fun in all my life. And then he said, then I picked up the S and did some work, and he said, then it's the improvements they've done in 3 versions. But he said, I was thoroughly enjoying using the X100 for all that so-called. I've never had the 100. How difficult it was to use. You know, it didn't react like everyone was used to other cameras.
But do you know what? It doesn't matter.
No.
like again, the X Pro 1 isn't the fastest. The battery life is not great. It's
No.
There are so many little niggly things with it, you know. But it makes you slow down and appreciate photography so much more. But I forget who I had the conversation with. I think it was with Theo from Fuji, the photography shop.
Yeah.
And I said to him, I really, really, really wanted to love the XT1 so much.
Yeah.
Why did they not just make the new X Pro one? Like, why? I don't. This concept of the flagship camera is interesting.
Yeah, it is.
Why do companies need to have one for a start?
Yeah.
Because the XT1 and the X Pro 1 are for different people. They are generally for different people. But it's, you know, if they would have just made the X Pro 2, you know, or I don't want to. The Fuji rumors will probably be listening. Hi.
Yeah.
You know, if they did went ahead and make the X Pro 2, they would have had less money as a company. And I you know, like cameras today, if a camera company really wanted to make an amazing camera, you know, we really could have an amazing camera. We really, really could. But at the end of the day, they're companies, and they're gonna release, you know, a camera now, a camera later. You know, 3 cameras a year.
Trip it out.
Yeah, trip them out because, you know, they're companies. I get that. But Fuji are very, very good at updating the cameras.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
The X Pro 1 today is so much further along than when it came out.
Yeah.
And, you know, everything about the camera is sharper, it's more refined.
Well, my theory about the way these cameras have developed from Fuji is the fact that, yeah, okay, we've got the rangefinder X100, then the X Pro followed that on, and then of course the XE1. Then we got the improvement with the XE2 and the 100S. That's fine. Now the XT appears on the scene, and everyone's going, why? Why? Well, it's because it's to attract people that prefer the DSLR styled camera. Whether you're left or right eye doesn't really come into it when you're using a DSLR camera. If you're a left or right eye user I'm a left eye user for the XE1, which is totally wrong, really, the way you're going to describe a rangefinder user. But I think the XT1 was produced mainly to attract the DSLR users that were drifting away into 4/3, and they were drifting into carrying on with their Nikon and their Canon equipment.
Yeah, I mean it's for yeah there's nothing. I think I just agree on all levels.
Yeah.
Yeah, quite right.
It's very, very interesting. You know, I'll tell you one thing that I've always said. I've blogged about this. But I was a massive golf player about 4 or 5 years ago, and my son was also played quite a bit. And we kept on every 3 months. There was a new driver which kept coming out, and of course, Dad, can I have this? Can I have that? And I kept on saying to him that the driver is not going to make you any better golfer. Your skill is going to make you a better golfer. 9 times out of 10, it's not the driver, it's the putter, basically. But that's beside the point. But when you come around to cameras, it's not the camera that makes you a better photographer. It's basically your eye and your skill and your knowledge as you're developing through, isn't it? I think I could argue both sides here. When I was one of the first people, I think, to do a big review of the 5D Mark III and the D800. Yeah.
And my remarks were that I generally thought that the 5D Mark III is the only exception to that rule.
Right. It's interesting.
Because it gives you so much confidence as a photographer.
Yeah.
That I mean, photography is a confidence game. You know, you can have the best equipment, and if you're not confident, they won't be confident images, and that, you know, stands to reason, especially when you're photographing people. If you're really nervous, like, game over, because they're going to see that you were nervous, and that doesn't work. But I generally thought and do think that if you're the sort of person that you believe that new camera and that new lens will make you a better photographer, and you believe that, then go and buy it, because it probably will.
Yeah.
In your head.
Yeah.
You know.
Okay, I'll take that on board.
It is a confidence thing, and that for a long time I just had a Nikon D90 and a 50mm lens. That was the only camera I had, and I didn't feel confident to shoot stuff because I felt I need that, and it's only when you've got everything else that you realise that you don't need it. But when you can't afford the lenses, there is a big psychological confidence thing in there. But you know, that's
for me.
That's
Basically, this is not a professional comment from my attitude, because I'm purely basic amateur photographer. But I found that having too much equipment was getting in the way of my photography. I got the 35mm on. Should I be using the 50, or should I be using the 55-200? And it was all basically confusing me all around, and I wasn't getting the shots. I did a practice one day. I was using a Nikon. I had a Nikon D50, which was the first Nikon I bought, and then I was at the D200, and I was waiting to afford to buy the 300. And I sat there on my computer and I looked at the images that I had created with my D50 and that kit lens 1855, and now what I was shooting with the D200, my 30, my 50, and all the other lenses I had. And I honestly said to myself, these photographs are no better than what I'd done with the D50. So I'm confusing my issue here with regards to my photography, and that's when I made the decision to cut loose and concentrate on one camera, one lens.
I mean, again, I have a tremendous access to a lot of different cameras, and the reason that I have the D800 is still I love using the Sigma lenses. I love using the Lee filters, and the combination of the sensor and the filters means that I genuinely enjoy getting every drop of range out of that camera. Every drop of range out of that camera. And that's what I use it for. Most of my landscape images, where I'm shooting directly into the sun, and I'm just getting everything just within that range, because I enjoy that challenge. That's why I can kind of justify having that camera.
Yeah, and also you do workshops, so the knowledge of all these different cameras and lenses obviously helps you when you're doing the workshops, when guys turn up to them, and of course they're not all using the same equipment, are they? Oh, I've got a Sigma here. Oh, I know Sigma, and that's very rare actually, from what I can get the impression from. But it's good knowledge, isn't it?
There is a bit at the back of me which is a tremendous geek. There really is. This is why before, and I was saying that one camera, one lens is great. And there I am, kind of in the deep depths of working out, exactly how sensors work, and all that kind of stuff. But that's being able to apply the technical knowledge. But the first and foremost, most important thing is content. Exactly, the mantra that Alex Lambert comes from. The camera needs to be invisible for you to really break down that it's. I think Cecile Beaton said it best, and I can't remember exactly what it is, but I'll email you the quote, but it's you're meant to move people with photography. You're meant to kind of give opinion. You're meant to say a story, or give a point of view, or things like that, and camera noise and sharpness. These are things that's like when you read a good book by Tolkien, is this perfect bound? I wonder what weight.
Yes, that's a great comment. I love that.
Gandalf slaying the dragon, and you're looking at the binding.
Exactly, yeah. Oh, that's a superb comment. I love that.
Yeah, it's great to know how to do these things, but
very true.
It's irrelevant.
I bought myself a William Klein book yesterday. It was the catalogue from the show a couple of years ago at the Tate, and I was looking through it, and I think around about 50% of them they're not in focus, but they're just superb images, and you think, well, good on you. you've seen something, you've taken it, and you've created some art. And at the same time, I'm talking to myself while I'm looking at the photograph, which is what it's all about, isn't it?
Yeah. There's on my website. There's the picture of the horse running across the beach.
Yeah.
And a few people have had quite big prints of it. And there's a chap that had I think in the end it was like 2.5 meters wide. He had it printed, and he got the print. It was like, oh, it's lovely, but it's a little bit blurred. It's like, oh, isn't that great? Isn't that great? It's like, yeah, it's not in focus. It's not in focus.
I was at the camera club once. I was doing a presentation of my work, and I had a photograph I took in Zurich. A horrible, dank day. There was nothing going on. So I did just a simple HDR photograph of the corner of this building, and there's this tram going past, which was obviously, it was blurred.
Yeah,
I was just in this shot, and they said, "Oh yeah, what have you done there? What's the process?" There's HDR, blah blah. And this guy in the front went, "Yeah, but it's blurred." I said, "Of course it's blurred. It's moving." You know?
Yeah, it's
this is crazy, isn't it? Crazy.
This isn't what photography. Well, it is what photography is about. If you're a stock shooter,
yeah, you're right. It's discussing the image, whether you're discussing it with yourself or whether you're discussing it with friends and colleagues. That's what photography is all about. Well, it's basically what art's all about. To be quite honest with you, at the end of the day.
And then you'll have to someone come and onto your show and ask her, is photography an art form?
Well, there we go. Thomas Hawke made a blog yesterday. How far do you process? And he likes to go 100%, obviously. And we're getting to the stage now. What is art photography, or is photography art, or do they overflow and overlap? I think it's great. I could bore everyone to tears on this subject, if I'm quite honest with you.
I mean, my view on it is, at the end of the day, if the person paying for it is happy, then job done.
Job done.
If you're the person that's paid for it, are you happy with it? Job done. And
yeah.
Regardless how many likes your picture gets.
Exactly right. Exactly right. Yeah, that is something which I've realised as well. You put a photograph up on the internet and you want as many likes as you can get, or as many pluses, but then again you think about it, no, I like that up there. If people want to then go for it. It's up to them. It doesn't bother me.
One picture,
you can't leave your photographs on the computer. As Brooks Jensen said, you've got to let those babies fly. You've got to let them go. Those little birdies fly.
Yeah. I mean, I'm a big printer. These are the things. These are my books so far. Everything I do pretty much ends up in printed form at some stage.
Yeah, you send me the links on those books, because I'll put those on the blog so people can track those down. Are they available on Amazon or direct from yourself?
I'm slowly kind of getting I'm a big Blurb fan.
All right, okay.
So most of them are up on Blurb.
Oh, that's lovely. Okay, we'll send the link to me and we'll put that on the blog for you. So Dave, that's great. Just talking about that. That's really great conversation, that part. But your future plans. Let's talk about your future plans. What's happening for Dave Piper in the near future?
Well, I can only do the extremely near future.
Right. Okay. Yeah. Exactly.
But well, I can tell you what I'm going to do next year. I know. Yeah. I mean, so I am. I'm hopefully heading over to see my good friend Udi Tosh, who runs DIY photography from Israel. Going to go over and see him, do some stuff. I started out very much kind of shooting people, working with people, and over the next kind of few months, I'm really going to put a lot of time into shooting my portrait projects. So they're just the kind of raw black and white images of people that inspire me. So I'm going to have a big track down of people that mean a lot to me in life, and I'm going to go and photograph these people. Going to try and do Tel Aviv, and then heading over to New York. Going to see if I can get back down to Washington, DC. Spend a little bit more time in the US. I want to go back over to Munich. Switzerland would be nice to do again, and just just carry on traveling. I think it's very, very important to learn as much about the world we live in as we can. And I think as a photographer, I almost feel like a sense of duty to go down to Luton and wait in the orange hangar and and travel to these places and record them.
Yeah. They record your life. It's very true. That's a good point.
Yeah, I mean, whether Israel is going to be there in the next 30 years or not, I don't know. But I have the opportunity to go, and I think in life, when opportunities present themselves, you know, regret is a terrible thing, and I just, I want to get up and I want to go, so I'm going to pack my camera.
Yeah.
Packing light, obviously, see if I can fit everything in my case and head out and travel. But people, places, cityscapes, landscapes, that sort of thing. People and places. That's where I'm gonna.
That's lovely. I feel a book's coming on here. Another book.
Another book. Yeah. No, I'm a big fan of don't take a picture unless you know which page it's going to go on in the book. And I guess that comes from the kind of the fashion editorial. You know. I always shoot in sets of pictures, you know, 2, 4, 6, 8, 12, 16, you know, double page spreads, single pages, double pages. So in my head I shoot very ready for editorial laying out. I shoot for pages, I shoot for print rather than Facebook liked, you know.
That's interesting.
Yeah, so I always shoot a cover image in my head, then I shoot an introduction. Like a cinema photographer or a videographer.
Yeah.
You shoot wide, you shoot the setting.
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, actually, because when sorry to keep repeating this guy, Alex, because I really like his photography, but this workshop we were on at the weekend, that's exactly the brief he gave us to start off. He said, right, the 12 of us were. He said, you're going to be doing an editorial photo shoot. I want this, 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 and this. And one of the things which he was saying a lot was cinema photography type spread, you know, and the 16:9. And now he does this. He takes you totally out your comfort zone.
Yeah.
I've never shot a 16:9 image in my life, and I think, crikey me, how am I going to compose this? But it's funny how when you get into that mode that you realise what you've got to produce. Interesting way to go about your photography there, though. Actually thinking about page layout rather than, as you say, Facebook or Google Plus images.
Yeah, I'm just saying if I could randomly just pull a magazine. I think I've got something in this one. Oh, actually, this is quite interesting. Yeah, no. So this was hang on, I didn't shoot that one. Mark Evans shot that. Let me see. Because this is a subject that actually I feel quite passionate about. Oh, this is mine. That these days, when a lot of photographers shoot, there isn't an end thing, right? They're not thinking. They're thinking. I use the analogy: ideas are born online, and then they end back online. People use Pinterest to make their ideas, and then they go photograph it, and they put it back on the internet. Where's photography in that?
Yeah, exactly. I understand where you come from there.
This is where photography is. This is what it's for. It's you know, I see it as an advertising media. So like when we shot this image, I didn't place her in the middle because I knew I knew it was going to be a double page. Online, one of the things I had to do to make the image balance is I had to recrop it so that online it worked better. So it has a different crop in the book. Than in there, but and again having to shoot vertical images at the same time as shooting, so kind of knowing exactly where your images are going to be. For anyone out there looking towards the fashion industry, wanting to get published and stuff, know how magazines work.
Yeah, exactly right.
No. Yeah, it's.
I was talking to Jerry Walden, actually. In actual fact, he said that the best magazines to buy in terms of study of photography is not your, dare I say, amateur photographer, outdoor photography, those sort of things, is by Tatler or 125, Harper Queens, those sort of fashion type, GQ, those sort of magazines where if you're into that type of photography, you'll see the layout and what's there. I was going to ask you, actually, you've just shown me two there, 125, and what was that last one? Was it Archie?
Another magazine.
No, what's that one there?
Oh, that one. That's a magazine called Another. These are quite old.
Another.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
Yeah, I mean, look at Rankin's magazines. Look at Dazed and Confused. Look at So my dad's just staring through me.
What are you doing?
Walking. Yeah, you know, like, know your subject, know your genre, and for a lot of people, photography isn't your genre. That's the ball game.
Yes.
You know, and inside that, you have the different fields. So, yeah. So for me, it's, you know, I shoot everything in a kind of a fashion-based editorial commercial style.
Mm-hmm.
So knowing how, you know, magazine editors are going to use my images is very, very important.
Yeah.
Say if I'm shooting for, I'm not going to be able to do this as quick, I don't think. Have I got anything in here? No, I don't think I have in this one. But if I'm shooting something for amateur photographer, I'm going to have a very different style and a very different layout to how I would if I was shooting for something, because the people reading this are going to want to see technically correct images. They're not going to want to see blown highlights. They're not going to want to see, you know, kind of, you know, just things that different magazines would give you. So knowing your content, knowing your subject is tremendously important. It would be like me going to photograph the Grand Prix. Like, where do I stand? What's the best shots? Where do I would have to go back and look at, you know, kind of how other people have done stuff. I'd have to research stuff. Where, you know, what lenses could I use?
Yeah.
How would I do it different? Actually, maybe a 35mm and an XT1 wandering around the paddock, you know, photographing some stuff might be. I'm not going to be able to compete with everybody, so I can think of a way around.
Different,
and do something different. And knowing your subject is. I mean, I have a lot of magazines and a lot of books on a lot of different things, so it's quite good actually having all my books here. I was going to say, well, I was doing some research, my cityscapes and stuff like that. So that was the book that I got. It wasn't a photography book. It was urban culture from 5 continents.
Right.
To see how, you know, how other people use, because it's all photography. And you know, so it was very, very interesting. So I do a lot of studying about
and you're right. If you've chosen photography as a major hobby, or if it's something which you really want to get into, you've got to study it. You can't just go with your own flow, because effectively what you're producing may be nothing extra special which the editor of these worlds are looking for, and you've got to study what is actually being produced and shown. You can't really sort of cut across the grain, can you?
No, and it does reinforce how non-important the camera is.
Yeah, exactly.
Because you can have technically the best images of the wrong content, and they are useless.
Yeah.
Zach Arias again said it best, and his name's cropped up a few times.
Mm-hmm.
If you see that Turkish guy sat outside a bar, you know, having a cigarette, playing chess, don't take that photograph.
No.
It's been done.
Yeah, exactly.
We've done that one.
Yeah.
A different one. Like,
if you really want it, take it, but don't show it. Put it in the album on your Lightroom.
Yeah, we've done that.
Exactly. There's very, very few sort of images that you're going to get. It's totally different. But I suppose really to a degree, it's what sort of artistic performance you put in yourself to create something new, which is important, isn't it?
There was one note actually that has just come to mind. In this day and age, whether it's the internet forum for photographers, but and again, this, I hope this doesn't sound like I'm Fuji bashing. I promise you I'm the last person in the world to do this. But when people put up images online and it's taken on this camera, therefore it's good because it's a good camera. It's like, tell me something different about the image. Don't give me it was taken on the 56 1.2 XT1. Like, who is it? Who's in the image? Where is the image? Give me some.
There's a couple of groups I've noticed that are requesting this now on Google Plus. Some communities which if you're an ex Fuji user, please state your camera and your lens, which is ridiculous really, because you've only got to click on the image and you get the EXIF data in any case. But more sort of more sort of description as regards to where you were and what time of day it was would be more sort of intuitive, wouldn't it, rather than the basic obvious.
This is, I mean, this is a whole other thing that we'll probably talk about for 9 hours. Is the building of the photographic community should be about the photography, not necessarily about the cameras.
Yeah.
There are people in the world that do care what cameras we use, and these are the people that sell the cameras.
Yeah, very true.
I shouldn't really care what camera you use, and no one should really care what cameras I use. I appreciate that people ask, and they do, because they want to know and find what's best for them and talking about it, which is fantastic. But just because you don't use what someone else uses, it doesn't mean that you're not as good. It doesn't mean that you're not as competent. It doesn't mean that you're not as worldly able. And
that's an interesting point, actually. You rather than build communities based on cameras, build communities on genre, for argument's sake, or whatever your main interest is in street photography, sports photography, that sort of thing.
I mean, the fashion industry and the fashion photographers are very, very good at doing that, because they don't see themselves as photographers. They see themselves in the fashion industry. You know, they're all about, the spring, autumn, winter 15, or, kind of different collections on which designers are hot, which designers are good. And, many of these people, are shooting stuff on their iPhones. The cameras are really not important. It's the content, and, and I guess Alex Lambert is a really good example of that.
Yeah, that's true.
He shoots the content. And he just, whichever camera fits in best is the one that gets used.
Yeah, that's right. Great. So, moving on, as I've said to you before the show, and those that watch this show on a regular basis, what I'd normally do at this stage is ask my guest a one-word association with a photographer. But I've started to switch that around a little bit, because the same photographers were being basically discussed. All the old masters, Henri Cartier-Bresson, William Klein, Eggleston, those sort of guys. So I want to get away from that a little bit. So I'm going to ask you, Dave, who is your favourite photographer?
I'll try and give you simple answers. My favourite photographer today, in this 5 minutes, I would like to say, I'm going to say Rebecca Litchfield. Okay.
Never heard of this lady. What's the sort of work that she does? I presume she's in the fashion and glamour type work, is she?
Was Rebecca Litchfield. Rebecca Litchfield. How do I describe Rebecca Litchfield? Gosh. She photographs okay. The reason I nominate or mention Rebecca Litchfield is her last book is a book called Soviet Ghosts, and it was a visual trip through kind of former Soviet Russian states, photographing the decay of the kind of the empire and that kind of thing. And it's kind of like there is a fashion aspect in there, but it's looking at the kind of romance of decay.
Right.
It's very, very interesting work. It's a perfect blend of photography and art. Rebecca has an MA from London College of Fashion. She does come from a fashion background, but her concepts, her vision, and her dedication to the larger project is what I kind of really admire from Rebecca's work.
Yeah, I've just put her up on the screen very quickly. That you can't see what I'm looking at, but the front image is quite. She's not related to Lord Litchfield by any question. No, not at all. Okay, no. So that's your favourite photographer as things stand at the moment, and obviously with favourite photographers they change from time to time.
Moment by moment.
Moment by moment, exactly right. Who would you say has been your inspiration? It doesn't necessarily have to be a photographer, mind, but who would be the person that's inspired you the most?
I see. I mean, these things are really tricky because they do generally change minute by minute. I am a big fan, and I guess at the minute it would have to be a guy called Jarrett Riddick, who's a lead singer of a punk rock band called Calling for Soup. And again, the sheer dedication over the years to a common aim, to a drive, to a vision, to go through adversities, setbacks, knockbacks, but just still to stand up and go, yeah, I do what I do. It's a very, very admirable trait. and especially for a lot of creative people, and especially young creative people. This industry, if you're going to stand up, and trust me, I know this from recent events, if you're going to stand up and have a point of view and an opinion, people are going to fire at you more today than ever before. And having a thick skin is maybe not the most appropriate metaphor, because that sounds like you just shrug it off.
Yeah.
But I think having an undeniable belief in yourself that what you're doing is right, and these are the little things that I take away from Jarrett, is that he's very, very focused on doing what he's doing, and I think that's a tremendous thing. And sometimes when you're getting knockbacks and people, I guess, people watching this, people are giving you a critique which you didn't expect, or saying that they would have done this differently, and all of these little chinks that we get as people that provide content to the world. Not everyone's going to like it. Not everyone's going to like what you do. Everyone's going to have a voice, and everyone's going to have an opinion, and sticking to who you are is so important.
Yeah, and I think life would be pretty boring if everyone agreed with everybody else. Someone's got to have an opinion to make life a little bit more sort of open and a little bit more enjoyable.
Yeah.
Dave, thank you so much for joining me today. It's been a really, really interesting conversation. Some really great points you make as well about not only equipment but style of photography and all the other bits and bobs which go to making the photographic industry such an interesting industry to be part of, in actual fact. So it's really great, and I'm going to repeat myself. Thank you so much for joining me at such a late notice. What I'd like to do, give it a sort of down the line a little bit more, I'd like to invite you back on, and we'll have another conversation, chat about photography in general, which would be really great. But once again, thank you so much, and I hope I had quite a few viewers on this afternoon. It makes me wonder whether I should switch the show from 8 o'clock to a little bit earlier, but there we go. Everybody out there that's watched the show, those that are about to watch it in the future, I hope you've enjoyed the show, and yes, it's that time of the show where I say, if you're going out shooting this weekend, leave your camera bag at home. Thank you so much for joining us. Bye for now.